My name is Sinead Conley and this is part 2 of my CA2. In the first part I showed you how my system writes to an XML, and and then I showed you a few examples of reading XMLs into the database. So these are taken straight from the database. They were put in from the XML, and if I open up my PHP myadmin and go into the public health nurse, you will see that in patients those few extra things were added there. I'm not 100% sure why Barbara comes up as, her surname comes up as a null field. I also don't understand why her name comes up as Barbara, because there shouldn't be too much of a problem with that. I think it's because it is either the XML or the GTT, but we've changed the surname and first name to accept things. But obviously in that version it took this Barbara and didn't read Marley, and it put it in as the patient info, which must be something to do with between the Java reading the XML, and I'm not sure. But anyway, and then the SQL itself is this method here is used for adding a patient from the nursing home to the database. So the first one there is it'll add it by using the normal method of adding a patient to the database, and that's just with the variables that the patient holds. And then, yeah, there it is, adding in the patient info. And then the second piece then it asks, oh, that's the one for the immunization clinic. This one here, yeah, and then it gets the PID using a method called getPID from user. So that's here, and that's just a simple SQL to get the ID, because the ID is the auto increment, so you need another method to get the ID for the user or for the nurse system. So and then we have just insert the patient details and into the nurse patient, so as the nurse and the patient are joined. Without this, you won't see that patient coming up in the info when you turn on, because that patient won't be registered to the nurse. Then here we have the insert into the medical private table, and that's the medical card details and the insurance details. So for that, and then we have the doctors as well. The nursing home tends to use 4 different nurses, although in the XML that I got from them there was no nurses on it, but I counteracted that by doing some select from GPs where first name is blah blah blah, and if it exists then I will get that GP ID from that, and then I will just insert that directly into the GP patient's file. Otherwise, if they don't exist, if the GP doesn't already exist, then it will be inserted into GP as normal, and then insert the GP to the patient in the GP patients table. So and then we have something similar again for the immunisation clinic. Here we have insert into nurse patients, and we have we use last insert ID there to find the value, and then got patients next of kin. There's this wasn't working perfectly, but it is still adding a patient to the database. I just think that there's something wrong as well with the reading the information. So between two of them, it's not working perfectly, but it still is adding patient details into the database if it's the right patient details. Anywho, then I just want to discuss a bit about the interoperability overall of what I thought of the three systems and how interoperable they were. I definitely think it's a big problem, and it really is necessary for medical places to come up with some set of standards that they will be able to use in every table. So when medical records were coming on, I think I think it would have been best if everyone had to have agreed on some unique identifier for the patients. I think that if Ireland are going to have to make an integrated system, they're going to need a unique identifier for every patient. At the minute there is none, apart from the PPS number, and the PPS number, it probably isn't suitable as a unique identifier. I know a lot of people have a number on their medical card, but a lot of people don't have medical cards, so it's not common to everyone that they have a medical card number. It would have been a lot easier if some of the groups had to have been able to set up a list of things that they could try and exchange, or at least have a similar, even if it was just a patient ID kind of thing. Like, say, you know, you're from the public health nurse, so your unique identifier for patients should be PHN, so it should be a string and not a number. So PHN, and then, you know, incrementing the numbers after that by one, which wouldn't have been too hard to set up. And the same goes for the nursing home. Say you're a particular nursing home, that's not going to have a unique identifier overall though either. It's going to come up with problems. That way you're going to have duplicates in the system. So it really stems down from the overall hierarchy of the whole thing that needs that it would be a great help if there was such a thing. I think I could have shared a bit more information maybe with the groups, but to get what was done was difficult enough with and I'm still waiting on some XML from groups as well that have everything in it for me to work with, so I don't know if it would have worked out to have extra details and make it more complex. For Fatima and Flare, the only other thing we would have been able to share is height and weight, and originally I had that was okay with me to share that because I put in different values for height and weight different times in my database anyway, and I'm working on creating a BMI track for the patients as well. I have that started. Then for the nursing home, it would have been a good idea to have the treatments in it. And at the start, it might have seemed like more work, but we weren't really sure how much. It just seemed like more tables, and we weren't even sure if it was working. But now, looking at the XML and the way the XML is written, it mightn't have been much more difficult to add treatments. Originally, I think it was thought that it would have been two different XMLs, but from knowing more about XML now, it would have been all in the one XML, and it would have worked out fine. Yeah, no, I think it is important to share information, but I can see that there's going to be a lot of problems with it if this is the way they're sharing information, or as the case may be, they're not sharing information. So how are they going to share information in the future? And again, you know, a standard language might be useful, or will be useful as well, because the information in my tables are not as concrete as the ones that might be in the nursing home from the doctors. For CA3 then, we will be working on the HCL, and that shall be interesting. Thank you. Bye.